let's talk about mental health. There are usually 3 components that I discuss with my patients. 1, understanding how our previous life experiences shape our current mental health. 2, learning about our current mental health and skills for mental well-being, like good sleep, good nutrition, positive coping mechanisms, and all of those things. And 3, learning about our future role and getting ready to thrive in our future life role. This time of transition in our lives is a magical time of motivation. I find with my patients that this is one of the most energetic, motivated times of their lives when they achieve things that they never thought they could. For example, stopping smoking completely, or starting to eat well, or starting to go to therapy, or starting to be more confident and stand up for their values. We can use this amazing time of motivation to give ourselves and our children the happy, loving, respectful lives that we deserve. Let's first talk about healing from our past. With parents I see in preconception counseling, we talk about their own childhoods and their relationships with their parents and the stories of their families. It really helps to be aware of our family stories and our attachment styles, and to be aware of how those will impact future generations and how those will impact our relationship with our own children. One of the best ways to demonstrate this is through a case example from my patients. So I wanted to talk to you about Taika and Lucy. Taika is a 34-year-old Maori man who presented with his wife Lucy to clinic. And we discussed that, unfortunately, Taika was separated from his family, separated from his father when he was a young boy. He never knew his father and didn't even hear stories about him. He has never had a stable adult male mentor in his life. His relationship with his mother was also chaotic because unfortunately she had an untreated mental health illness. And so he developed an avoidance attachment style. When things became difficult with his partner, he always withdrew and he never confronted any issues. He's at the very start of his healing journey and hasn't given himself space to grieve that lack of parental love and to grieve for the inner child in him who didn't receive that love and care that he deserved. We discussed in our consult how this can mean 2 things for Taika. 1, that he might feel grief for the little boy Taika when he sees how wonderful a father-child relationship can be. And 2, unfortunately, how much work he will have to do in order to understand what a father-child relationship looks like, and how he will have to learn everything from scratch, like how to have a conversation about bullying with his son, or how to help a young boy learn how to swim. This might not come instinctively or automatically to him, as unfortunately he hasn't experienced it. This can also be a benefit that he can invent parenthood for himself, and he can decide what sort of parent he wants to be, and he can learn with his child to do things in the best way possible and in the way that works for them. It will be hard, but he's so motivated to do this in a beautiful, wonderful way and to give his child a glorious, fun, magical start to life. With Taika, I discussed a mental health care plan and referral to a psychologist in order to give space to those feelings and in order to help him process those feelings. He took this on board and has already started seeing a psychologist in order to create positive coping mechanisms and create space for the grief. And in order to have a relationship with a psychologist that he can use later on after he becomes a father in case he needs it. I admire Lucy and Taika so much. They've done so much healing through their relationship. They have helped each other feel safe and secure. They communicate so positively and openly with each other, and their interactions during the consult are so positive and so wonderful to observe. John and Julie Gottman talk about healthy, thriving relationships, and they talk about how in thriving relationships, positive interactions hugely outnumber negative interactions. Usually by a ratio of 5-1 or even a ratio of 20-1 positive to negative interactions. And I can definitely see that in Taika and Lucy's interactions. They're constantly joking with each other, constantly saying positive things about each other, and they're really supportive of each other. They've helped each other heal through their relationship. And Lucy and Taika always talk about how wonderful it is to have their relationship, and that whether or not they decide to have a child or decide to adopt a puppy instead, they always have their relationship to make their life magical and wonderful. Then, in our consults, usually we talk about mental health and developing skills for mental well-being. The journey of conception can be really hard. You may experience miscarriage, or you may experience infertility. Unfortunately, about 20% of couples struggle with infertility, and almost 1 in 2 couples experience miscarriage. So it can be a very arduous journey, and understanding our own mental health and developing skills for good mental health can get us through this difficult journey, as well as the difficulty of the 4th trimester and the lack of sleep and the physical and mental changes. Understanding our bodies and being able to hear our emotions is a really good skill. Investing in good sleep, good nutrition, exercise, positive relationships, positive self-talk, developing hobbies and making more space for your hobbies, stopping negative habits like too much screen time or too much social media, all of those things can really help you with your own mental health. Investing in our own mental health can really help us during this time and can help us to build the strength to get through the sleep deprivation of the 4th trimester, which we will talk about in later videos. I wanted to talk about another case study from my patients, Jack and Anya. Jack and Anya presented for preconception counseling. While Anya was very ready to have a baby, Jack was there mainly because he didn't want to disappoint her. Unfortunately, Jack has experienced abuse in his own childhood, and he's never really reckoned with that. And it was really taking a toll now with the added stress of preparing for a baby. So we discussed this during the preconception counseling, but we continued discussing it afterwards. And they decided that instead of having a baby this year, they will instead invest in relationship counseling and regular dates before trying to conceive. For them, I prescribed reading EFT Therapy by Sue Johnson, the Hold Me Tight book, and as well as 8 Dates by John and Julie Gottman. They really loved the open-ended questions from John and Julie Gottman. They would sit together and do the open-ended questions, and it really helped them, even after more than a decade together, it really helped them to ask each other open-ended questions and to find out new things about each other. They really invested in their relationship, and whether or not they go on to have a baby, this relationship will nurture them and will help them have a good quality of life. During preconception counseling, we often discuss stress. Too much stress can unfortunately impact your ability to conceive, and unfortunately it can impact the developing fetus as well. So if you have the luxury of reducing your work hours or changing the type of work that you do in order to reduce stress, that will be so good for conception and so good for your developing fetus. Pregnancy is like running a marathon a day. It's advisable to avoid other stress if you can, especially something called toxic stress, which is stress that you don't have control over. Toxic stress in particular can be harmful to a developing fetus. A new idea that I like to introduce during preconception counseling is the 4th trimester. So many of us have heard about the 3 trimesters during pregnancy, but not many of us have heard about the 4th trimester. The 4th trimester is very real and can be very challenging. After you give birth, your body takes a long time to heal. Your uterus is still contracting to go back to its normal size. You're bleeding for up to 6 weeks. Your breasts hurt so much because of engorgement and because of the milk coming in. Your mood changes so much. Your sleep is minimal, and it's a very, very, very all-encompassing time of transition. It's advisable to read more about the 4th trimester and to speak to others about their experience during this time. Social media and celebrities can sometimes create a very unrealistic expectation of what postpartum life looks like. Postpartum life is beautiful, and it's a time of magical bonding with your baby. But it's also a time when your body is adjusting after going through a very, very, very intense 9 months of pregnancy and a very intense time of giving birth. Another key idea that I like to introduce during preconception counseling is matrescence and patrescence. A lot of us have heard about adolescence. Adolescence is a time when we transition from being a child to being an adult. And that's an incredible time when we change so much physically and mentally, and the way we see the world changes so much. In a similar way, matrescence is moving from a normal adult to a mother, and patrescence is moving from a normal adult to a father. And that's a huge time of transition. A lot of the people I talk to talk about feeling joy that they never knew existed, and feeling a sense of responsibility that they never knew existed, seeing the world in a whole different light, and feeling responsible for the world in a whole different way. A lot of people describe existing in their bodies very differently, feeling more fully human. It's a magical time that will truly transform your identity.